Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Fun show planned for today. Lots of college football talk. The new college football playoff rankings come out tonight, and for the most part, barring something unforeseen, what you see tonight is going to give you a very good idea of what the 12-team playoff is going to look like after championship weekend. We'll also get into Diego Pavia's Heisman case and the coaching carousel, which continues to spin. More news last night. Nick Frazier, how's it going?
Good morning. Glad to be back. Another wonderful cold Tuesday morning here in Nashville.
I know. When we did our show last week on Tuesday, I was in much nicer weather. It's been tough getting back to the 30 degrees here and flurries and all the stuff that we've been having the last couple of days. But we love it. It's December. It's the holiday season. And we've got some great football coming up this weekend, championship weekend. And we will talk about it later on in the show too. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward facing off on Sunday in Cleveland. Going to be the most highly anticipated game between teams with less than 3 wins in NFL history at this point in the year. Nick, before we get into some college football here, Monday Night Football last night, Patriots cruised to an 11th win. They are now all alone at the top of the NFL with 11 wins this season. Titans all the way at the bottom at 1, but that's not where I wanted to go. Younghoe Koo with one of the most hilarious field goal attempts of all time last night. I saw that and I was like, we have to lead with this on the show because I know Nick Frazier, he's a pretty good kicker.
Thank you.
Have you ever chunked your kick where you hit a foot and a half behind the ball?
I have, but I've followed through with it like a golf shot. And
right.
You would at least go down with dignity of missing the kick.
Right. It might come up short. It might be a little bit of a line drive, might get blocked, but at the very least you make contact. His foot hit the ground and stopped.
And you could see his face. It just went, oh no. Like, just don't be that guy. Just follow through with it. Take the embarrassment like a true man and then go back to the sideline. But no, that game in general was just bad.
So funny. But I mean, yeah, the Giants did not play well. They made it look a little more respectable later in the game, but it was 30-7 at one point.
Yeah, look, the whole time I'm watching the game after the kick return, was it Marcus Jones?
The punt return.
Yeah, punt return. He goes and returns it, and all I could think about is Mike Vrabel at the podium in Nashville saying, "Rand, get me some returners." That's all I could think about. I mean, this is the Tennessee Titans 2.0. This is exactly what Vrabel wanted in Nashville, and yet he got it all in New England, and it's unfortunate to see it. It really is.
Yeah, and Drake May looked great again. I mean, that touchdown pass he threw to Kyle Williams, who I know was a pretty big draft crush around here for a lot of people, former Cam Ward teammate at Washington State. He dropped that thing in the bucket. I mean, it was beautiful. And the Patriots 11-2. They've won 10 straight games. And going into the bye week, I did not realize there were week 14 bye weeks, but Panthers and the Patriots at least are on bye this week.
And that bodes so well for the Patriots. I mean, they're just getting a little extra cushion near the end of the year. I mean, I was telling Connor over the weekend we had like contenders, pretenders, and the Patriots came up as one of those teams. I said they're contenders. I mean, how can you not say they're contenders, right? They're one of those teams that could possibly win the Super Bowl without a hesitation to say.
Yeah, I mean, it is wide open in the AFC. The NFC, I think the Rams, but they lost to the Panthers this weekend. So you never know. It's going to be a very fun January once we get into the playoffs in the NFL. Titans obviously will not be there. Alex on the text line says there's a video of the hold and the ball slid way too close to his plant foot. There was no way he was going to kick that ball. Maybe, but it looked hilarious to see him basically. I mean, that's what I do with my 8-iron in the middle of the fairway is just like hit a foot behind the ball. And you hit the big ball before the small ball. And it ended up being a sack, I believe is what the call was. It's not a miss. He didn't make contact. It was a sack. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will talk Shedeur Sanders versus Cam Ward in the final hour of the show. Matthew in Nashville says, calling it now. If Shedeur lights up the Titans on Sunday, you will have Titans fans like our good friend Trey call in and say, we should have taken Shedeur number 1 over Cam. And yes, I am fully anticipating that next Monday, So I'm really hoping the Titans, if there's one game the Titans are going to win the rest of the year, make it this one so we don't have to deal with the second guessers going back and saying, oh, should have taken Shador #1 overall, even though he fell to the 5th round. So anyway, we'll talk about that later on in the show. Want to get into some college football because today the college football playoff rankings come out, and I will use this topic to say I think they need to go away from doing the weekly rankings reveals. I've said this before, but it is so stupid that they're going to release rankings today that this is the final rankings release. For better or for worse, yeah, maybe BYU beats Texas Tech, and then you have to make a decision of, is Texas Tech still worthy to get into the field at 11-2? And I would argue, yes, I think they'd be in. BYU would then get an auto bid. If Alabama wins, then they're firmly into the field. What do you do with Notre Dame and Miami? I'm sure there is a whole lot that could change, but for the most part, for all of the teams that do not play this weekend, this is it. And for Vanderbilt specifically, if they are not at the very least at 11, they're not going to get it. And I hate that on Tuesday before the selection show on Sunday that we're going to know that, right? I think they need to do one like mid-November top 12, right? Like the college basketball committee does. They release their top 16 twice throughout the season. And it just gives you a little check-in of what they're thinking about these teams. That's fine. Do like a November 13th every year. We give you the top 12 right now. But we don't need the weekly rankings reveals because it boxes the committee into a corner where, oh, well, we had Vanderbilt at 14. I don't know if we can justify moving them up. And I hate that. The committee should be looking at it holistically and not on a week-to-week basis. And because of what they've already said about these teams, I find it very hard to believe Vanderbilt's going to jump 3 spots, despite how well they played this weekend in Knoxville.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's any team in the nation that goes into Tennessee and wins by that big of a margin, let me know, because that was a very convincing win from Vanderbilt. And to the point of, there's been a lot of just circulating of chairs when it comes to this committee, like the Baylor AD longer on the committee.
He was the chairman.
And right before that, they were gassing up Utah and saying they're one of the best teams out there. The Utah athletic director takes over, and what happens? They're in the running for this top 12. And that to me bothers me a little bit. And you hope when all things kind of settle down that may not play a factor. I mean, as for Vanderbilt's sake, you look at teams like the ACC and the Duke and Virginia in that conference championship game.
Yeah.
If Duke wins, that throws everything into a spiral.
That it is going to be a hilarious day on Sunday if Duke wins, because James Madison would be the biggest beneficiary of that.
Mm-hmm.
The question would become, does a 5-loss Duke team get in over a 1-loss James Madison team?
Absolutely not.
I would argue that James Madison deserves to be in, right?
Yes.
Like, Duke lost 5 games. I don't care that they lucked through tiebreakers and got into the ACC championship game and beat Virginia, who, obviously I'm biased. Virginia at 10-2 is not a playoff worthy team. So you could end up having 2 group of 5 teams in there and nobody from the ACC, which would be insane.
I saw somebody online posted their projected top 12, and it was, I believe, Tulane and JMU as those 2 teams.
Right.
So like that'd be interesting to see that as well. I don't know. Looking at that top 12 and the projection, I saw the AP poll came out and Vanderbilt dropped a spot. And I hope that's not a precursor to what we're going to see tonight. Because if that is the case, then yeah, like what you said to open up the show, not looking great.
I've said it for 3 weeks in a row now. So, I guess it might be losing its meaning at this point. But if Vanderbilt is ranked behind Utah again, I'm going to lose it. Like, Utah, the only reason that they are putting Utah up there is because, they explained it. They said, oh, well, Utah, those blowout wins over Arizona State and Cincinnati, they're holding a lot of weight for us. It's like, all right, well, Vandy just went into Knoxville and won by 21. Excuse me. Let's give Vanderbilt credit. Utah probably should have lost to Kansas State and Kansas the last 2 weeks. Kansas threw a pick 6 at the goal line that would have completely changed that game. Utah does not deserve to be ranked above Vanderbilt. So I would say move Vanderbilt up to 13. The only way they get to 11 is if the committee completely reshapes their view on the trio of Miami, Notre Dame, and Vanderbilt. Right now, they have possibly the worst configuration of that three. They have Notre Dame number 1, Miami 2, Vanderbilt 3. I think that's horrendous. I would actually turn it on its head, and I would say it's Vanderbilt, Miami, Notre Dame. And honestly, only because Miami beat Notre Dame. Right. I think Notre Dame's a better team than all three of them. They are the best team of the three. But when you look at resumes and who is the most deserving, Notre Dame is not the 8th best team in the country or whatever they are right now. And I don't think they're going to change it. The committee would have to completely change their view on those 3 teams for Vanderbilt to get in. I think they should. I don't think they're going to. And I mentioned to you right before we came on air, ESPN.com, Heather Dinich put out an article of the bubble watch for the college football playoff, put Texas as a team that is still in the mix and had Vanderbilt as out.
It's so aggravating to hear that because Steve Sarkisian, after the game, pleaded his case for a 3-loss Texas team. I mean, I get it.
I get the argument. Yes, if they scheduled Kennesaw State, they'd be 10-2, and they probably would be in with the quality wins that they have. But the loss that's holding you out is not Ohio State. The loss that's holding you out is Florida. You lost to a horrible Florida team. Horrible. That is disqualifying to me.
I'm with you.
Especially if you have 3 losses, right? Like Alabama lost to Florida State week 1. They have done enough since then that they are firmly in the mix for a playoff spot, and they have a chance to control their own destiny and win this weekend. But Alabama at 10-2, if BYU beats Texas Tech this weekend, Alabama's probably out.
Mm-hmm.
So
not wrong.
Though bad losses have to count too. And that's my argument for Vanderbilt over Miami is Miami lost to 2 unranked teams in SMU and Louisville at home. Vanderbilt's 2 losses are on the road against playoff contenders. And then I would seed it Miami over Notre Dame because Miami beat Notre Dame. And those results have to matter. So there you go. That's my argument for Vanderbilt, but I don't think the committee's listening, sadly.
Like they talked about 2-3 weeks ago that margin of victory is going to play a factor into any of this. And for Vanderbilt's sake, it should play a factor into it. For all these other teams that are, again, even Willie said it yesterday, brand bias does exist. And I think it does play a factor into this year's playoff.
I mean, it's the Irish and it's the U. It's Catholics versus convicts. Vanderbilt just doesn't quite get the same shine. And we said it coming out of the bye week with Kentucky and Tennessee left that Vanderbilt probably needed some style points, right? You can't just eke by against Kentucky and Tennessee because clearly the committee wanted to see the eye test from Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. They wanted to see, hey, this is a playoff-worthy team. Vanderbilt did everything they possibly could to show that. They put up 45 points in back-to-back games, and they were able to blow out Kentucky. It was 45-3 before the starters went out, and then you pull away in the second half in Knoxville. There's nothing else Vanderbilt could have done. It just seems like they didn't get any help whatsoever. And I actually wanted to start the show off with this question, and I want to hear from everyone out there, 615-737-1025. If you're a Vandy fan listening, how do you feel about this season? Because it's a confusing, emotional ride this year of you won your first 10 win season in program history. You're going to go to a great bowl game, but you're going to get left out of the playoffs, maybe unfairly. How do you feel about this season? Especially, you might have a Heisman winning quarterback, too. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, our question is, how do you feel as a Vanderbilt fan about this season? And I know you're still in it, and maybe it'll change as you get further removed from the season. But how do you feel about this? If Vanderbilt is to get left out of the playoff, are you excited to go to the Citrus Bowl or the ReliaQuest Bowl? Or does that feel like a consolation prize that you just really don't want? We want to hear from you. 615-737-1025. We'll do that next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly off and running on this Tuesday morning. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. This holiday season, 1025 The Game is looking out for the kiddos. We want to donate a bunch of stuffed toys to the Nashville Children's Alliance to be given to kids this holiday, but we can't do it without you. Join us at a Dunkin' location near your neighborhood the week of December 8th through the 12th to drop off a stuffed toy that a child will love. Find the locations now at thegamenashville.com/toy. Also, we would like to thank the Metro Nashville Police Department for all of their help with this promotion. We are asking the question, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, how do you feel about this season? Because it can be a little bit of a bittersweet experience, right? You're happy you're 10-2. You just beat Tennessee in Knoxville, and you might have a Heisman winning quarterback. But likely the committee is going to leave Vanderbilt out of the playoff, and we will get more clarity on that tonight. So let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Not sure if this is Vandy related, but we got Trey on the line. Trey, thanks for calling. What you got for us today?
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing well.
Hey, I just wanted to say, Bud, that I believe Vanderbilt should be in the playoff. For one, I believe that they're a sleeper team. Number two, that I believe that they could beat. I'm gonna put this out there. I believe they can beat any of those teams. Number three, I believe Indiana, if they get in the playoff, you know how those teams that everybody wants to get in, oh, they need to get in, oh, they let them in, and then they get smoked in the first or second round. That's what I believe in Indiana. It would be a travesty if 12 people on committee that we don't know who these people are, they don't have an ounce of probably playoff experience or football experience conducting who's going to have a legend and who's not going to have a legend. I don't think it's fair if they don't get in the playoffs, because I love Clark Lee. I love what he's done with this team. I love how he brought the program from the gutter. And I think it would be a shame if they don't let Vanderbilt in this playoff. And I would say that he should be coach of the year for bringing this for bringing all that back to Vanderbilt. And y'all have a good day. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Trey. I agree. I think Vanderbilt could beat anybody outside of maybe Ohio State. Ohio State is the one that I look at and say, no, everybody's going to have a tough time beating him. Now, could somebody beat him like Georgia or Ole Miss? Maybe not Ole Miss anymore. Possibly. Sure, somebody could beat Ohio State. I don't know if Vanderbilt could beat Ohio State. But everybody else in that bracket, I think Vanderbilt would have a chance to beat.
Absolutely. I mean, a team like Alabama, looking at that first Alabama game, you could say that fell on the shoulders of Diego Pavia with some certain decisions.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 turnovers in the red zone were brutal.
And to that point, too, looking at the Tennessee game with Diego Pavia, those 2 interceptions, and he turned the ship around in the second half. To me, that tells me this team has matured. They know how to play at the highest level with the top 12 teams. So that's something to look at if you're the committee and go in with an open mind, like Willie Donick said yesterday.
Right. And that's why I hate the weekly rankings releases, because they have backed themselves into a corner. Unless they view that Vanderbilt win over Tennessee as just gigantic and all right, that's what we've been waiting for Vanderbilt, let's put them into the playoff. Unless that's how they're thinking, which I doubt it, then Vandy's going to be on the outside looking in. I think they will pass Utah, but I think they're probably still going to be behind Miami, BYU, Notre Dame, and there's just not enough chaos that can happen this weekend. Honestly, the most chaos that could happen would close spots rather than open them. BYU getting in would probably knock Alabama out if they were to lose the SEC championship.
Yeah, and another factor into all this, you mentioned Ole Miss. Look, that 30-day window is now open. You wonder.
Not yet. And it's a 15-day window now.
15. They changed it.
So they changed it this year. So the programs who fired their head coaches early in the season, it was 30 days.
Okay.
Now that they've changed it and it's a one
window
for the portal, it's 5 days after the coach leaves. You have 15 days. So that starts on Friday, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, then look, again, stay to your point of no need to have a top 12 ranking on a Tuesday night. Let it, let it ease itself out, because it's stupid, because now you have to wait on these players. If I'm a committee member, I'm watching Tupelo, Mississippi. I'm saying, hey, how many players out of your program are leaving?
Well, and it's disappointing because they have to justify every move they make, right? It's like if they did put Vandy up, all the Notre Dame and Miami people are going to be, well, you've had Vandy behind us for 4 weeks. What changed? And that's what Vandy was asking when Miami got slid above them. They have to justify every move they make. If you just did one, give it a little check-in in November, and then release the selection show this Sunday, that would make things easier for the committee because they wouldn't have to justify every move they make. I'm sure that's holding them back a little bit, even if they believe Vanderbilt is better. Well, we have to go out in front of people and say why they're better than Notre Dame and Miami. And I don't think they want to do that.
And look, that's a case for Ole Miss. What do they have to prove when it comes to brand bias without a guy like Lane Kiffin and some guys on that staff that are now gone that went with Kiffin to Baton Rouge? So it makes you think come Friday, how many players are actually going to enter the portal rather than stay? Because if that is the case, it reminds me of that Florida State situation where they were left out of the playoff as the quarterback.
That's what Dave on our text line just sent in. He said, if undefeated Florida State was left out because they lost their quarterback a few years ago, Ole Miss should be out because they lost their head coach. And I disagree with that because you don't punish the players because the coach left. They went 11-1. They deserve to be in. But you're right. If the portal opens Friday and half that team jumps in, then sure. I don't think that's going to happen. I think those guys want to go play for a national championship. But if that was to happen, then yeah, I think you'd have to consider leaving Ole Miss out.
Because the best scenario for me, look, if I'm a Vanderbilt fan, which I'm not, but if I am a fan and I would like to see them in as a hometown guy, you have BYU lose in their conference championship game. Let's say Duke beats Virginia. All these are crazy scenarios. But then Ole Miss, you have a majority of those players enter the portal. To me, that opens up some spots.
You can only hope, right? Right now, the path is narrow, and you need the committee to seriously value your win in Knoxville, and you probably need a little bit of help still. Like I say, Vandy has to get up to 11 tonight to have a chance. Even at 11, you're on the outside looking in. You would need BYU to get boat raced in the Big 12 championship to have much of a chance to surpass them and get in. It's possible, but the committee would have to pretty much completely rethink the way that they've rated Vanderbilt for the last month. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to Tim on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tim, thanks for calling. What you got for us?
Hey, guys. Look, let me give you a little background, a little history before I go into it. My dad worked at Vanderbilt for 38 years. He started when I was 4 years old. I used to listen to ball games when I was 5 and 6 years old. I'm 63 years old. So this is the best team I've ever seen in my life at Vanderbilt had. Will I be disappointed? Sure, I'll be disappointed. But I come to expect them overlooking us and cheating us and doing it. I come to expect it, so it's not going to surprise me. Now, if you want to do the fair thing, you take all these resumes of all the teams that are out to do it. You don't put a name on them. You compare what Vanderbilt's done to the other teams, and you tell me there's no way that they're not in it. If they didn't have the Vanderbilt in front of that, that's the only thing keeping us out. It's not the resume.
No, it's a very good point. I think if you went completely blind rankings, I think Vanderbilt would be at the very least ranked higher than they are now.
I guarantee you they'd be ranked in the top 8.
It might be tough. You know, the head-to-head loss to Alabama is tough.
Yeah, but Alabama was ranked in the top 10 when we lost to them at Alabama.
No,
now think about it.
I know. I'm saying that you would be behind Alabama, and there are some other teams in the SEC that have better wins than Vanderbilt does. But I agree. I think Vanderbilt should be above Miami, Notre Dame, and BYU.
But you got to look. We beat 4 ranked teams, and everybody's going to say, well, they're not ranked now. When we played South Carolina, they were 11th in the country. When we played and beat them at South Carolina, when we beat LSU, they were number 10 in the country. All right. When we beat South Carolina, they were 15th in the country. All right. When we beat Tennessee, they were 19th in the country. You can't take that away from us.
Right.
What happened to them after that, that's on them. But we beat 4 top 20 teams in the country.
That it's a good point, and I appreciate the call, Tim. Vanderbilt, I think, is going to continue to push those points of, hey, we can't control what those teams do after we played them, but we went into a hostile environment in Columbia, South Carolina, and beat a top 12 team. Yeah, they only went 4-8. But Scott on the text line, kind of in the same vein, says people denying brand buyers are living in the clouds. 4 of the 6 biggest drops in the AP poll this year were South Carolina right after losing to Vandy, LSU after losing to Vandy, Mizzou after losing to Vandy, and Tennessee after losing to Vandy. Everybody drops after Vandy beats them because I think it's like, oh, they lost to Vanderbilt, and it's tough to shake that reputation.
And if you look at it with a blind eye saying it's not Vanderbilt and you just X out the name,
right?
To me, that shows me that's a really good college football team that exposed a team that was overvalued.
Right.
Simple as that.
And Vanderbilt, their offense has been one of the best in the country, if not the best, over at least the last month. 615-737-1025. We see you on the phone lines. We will get to you coming up next, continuing to talk Vanderbilt's college football playoff case and Diego Heisman's Heisman case. I looked this morning. Diego Pavia is tied for the highest odds to win the Heisman. We will talk about that throughout the next 30 minutes as well. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, talking Vanderbilt on this Tuesday morning. Commodores will find out much more about their college football playoff hopes tonight as the newest college football playoff rankings are announced. Best season in program history, first 10-win season. You beat Tennessee in Knoxville. You've got a Heisman contender at quarterback, but still might get left out of the college football playoff. And we are asking you, the Vanderbilt fans out there listening, how do you feel about this season if Vanderbilt does miss the playoffs? Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our good friend Kenny the mailman has called in. Kenny, thanks for calling. What's up?
Good friends. That was a great call from Tim. Please keep calling in, Tim. You did a great job.
That was great from Tim. Good stuff.
Yeah. Now, I got breaking news for y'all. I did not consider calling 245-17 or any other radio stations because I like y'all so much. I have this breaking news flash just for y'all. Are you ready?
Can't wait.
I don't know how Diego Pavia is going to do in the Heisman voting, but I just left the polls up here in Ashland City, and he's ahead of Afton Bain and Matt Van Epp for the 7th congressional seat.
For the write-ins, everybody's writing in Diego Pavia.
I am so excited about that. And you know what? They better be glad he isn't running because he's probably the most popular guy in Nashville right now.
All the questions were whether Diego's going to New York. I guess he's going to D.C.
Yes, he is. Listen, just like Tim, I'm 63 years old. Nothing will ruin this season for me. This is the dream season I have been waiting for. I've seen Vandy lose to the Citadel, Northern Illinois, Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, every direction you can think of. Not having a chance to have a winning season. And to have this happen, I know, they're going to be slighted in the polls. The Citrus Bowl now doesn't even want them. They're going to pick Texas for sure. But my bowl game was last Saturday. Okay. That has only happened 4 times in my lifetime, winning in Knoxville. So I will never take anything like this for granted. I will never overlook it. I'm getting the T-shirt, the hat, the DVD, whatever they say. I'm going to have it. I'm going to wear it. And people, don't let this ruin whatever happens. I'm calling the playoffs. They have an acronym for them. The CLIP, the College Level Invitational Playoffs. Because that's what they're doing. They're inviting who they want, and then they'll figure it out how to word it later. So don't let this ruin it. Don't let the AP. I still haven't figured out how you go to Knoxville and win and get dropped from 12 to 13.
Crazy.
Yeah, I wish the people that voted, did they have their names on their votes?
They do. And yeah, there were a few who moved Vanderbilt down after beating Tennessee.
Yeah, I just want to know, just explain, your thinking. Just let me know. If you take it serious, explain it. And if you don't, let somebody else do it. Because we enjoy seeing the polls and everything. And just doing something like that, you go, really? Really? But yeah, nothing is going to ruin this experience for me. Y'all have a great day.
You too, Kenny. Thank you for the call. That's how I figured most Vanderbilt fans would feel disappointment about the playoff, but you can't take anything away from Vanderbilt football this year. I mean, 10 wins, again, first time in school history. You go into Knoxville, you get a win. And if you had told Vandy fans at the beginning of the year this is how it was going to turn out, I think the expectation would be they would have made the playoffs. But this is a season that they'll never forget. And the expectations get raised as you win more, right? I think most Vandy fans at the beginning of the year weren't expecting to be in the playoff hunt. It was, hey, let's hope we take a step forward, get 7, get 8 wins, somewhere in there. You got 10. And just because the committee is going to leave Vanderbilt out doesn't take anything away from what this team has accomplished.
And look, too, don't discredit, what you're talking about now, but like say if every team's already guaranteed one more game. You're bowl eligible, you're guaranteed one more game.
Yep.
If I'm Clark Lee in this football team, we have an opportunity to go 11 wins.
Right.
We have an opportunity to show the committee this is the reason why y'all left us out, if that is the case. And we can go into next season as preseason darlings, as, I don't know, a top 10 team.
Right.
And if that is the case, then you back up your resume and you keep winning football games. Simple as that. What Clark Lee's done here in Nashville should not be overlooked by national media, in which it is. This is something that is being built from the ground up and probably should get more recognition. It really should.
Yep. It's disappointing that Vanderbilt seems to be on the outside looking in, but unbelievable season. And you hope that the momentum from this year can carry over into next year and so on and so forth, especially with Clark Lee signing that extension last weekend. Let's go back to our phone lines. Tyler has been waiting patiently. Tyler, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. No, as you said at the beginning of the year, if you would have had us down for 10 wins, I'd have taken that in a heartbeat. It was an absolutely great environment in the stadium to see the fans show up. Yes, sometimes we had a good bit of opposing fans in there, but the bank was rocking this year. Great environment. It's just been absolutely fun to watch this team, the offense. As you said, Diego deserves to win the Heisman. With all that being said, though, we're one of the best 10 football teams in the nation. And 4 weeks ago, I put a $100 bet on Vanderbilt plus 450 to make the playoffs because it had us at a 96% chance of making the playoffs on the ESPN poll if we won out. And we did just that. And like you said, in great fashion in Knoxville, where Oklahoma and Georgia both struggled to get wins. Georgia lucky to get a win with the missed field goal. Oklahoma, if Aguilar doesn't make those mistakes, same thing with Alabama, let them off the hook. 17 of their 23 points came off turnovers there against Alabama. So you can't tell me that Vanderbilt's not one of the best teams in the country. I think we proved that on the football field the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, very disappointing, I'd say, for us from that standpoint. Kenny the mailman and all them I agree with him. It's been fantastic to watch us. But any other fan base, especially in the SEC, would be having pitchforks and riots if they got left out with 10 wins, as Texas is already trying to do so with 9. So, yeah, I do think there's still a bit of disappointment from that aspect, though.
Yeah, it's obviously frustrating because the last month has been spent on how can this team make the playoff, and it looks like they're going to come up short. But I think once you get into the offseason, you're going to look back and with very fond memories of the season, of course, but you'll remember the good parts of this more than getting left out. And I've said it before, Vandy fans can hold this over everybody for the next year of we got left out by the committee. The committee completely botched this, and maybe Vanderbilt can pull a UCF and claim a national championship. Why not?
I wouldn't go that far.
Let's go back to the phone line. Shark is on the line. Shark, thanks for calling. What you got?
Hey, good morning, guys. I'd just like to call in. I want to give a shout out to my ex-coach from middle school, Kenneth Holman. Back in the day, we used to get a lot of uniforms from Vanderbilt, especially their pants. And during games in high school, we got a lot of their black pants with the white stripes and the gold stripes. So Springfield Jags were black and gold, but I'm very biased when it comes to Vandy just because of that fact. And I do believe if the committee leaves them out, that it'll be a service to college football. You have a team that's in the SEC that's been getting brutalized for the last 30 years, especially my entire life. I've been to plenty of Vanderbilt games. Stadiums have been empty, but just to see this program be turned around in the last, 2 to 3 years, it's been amazing. And you don't want to leave that out of college football. That is what college football is about. The atmosphere, the fans getting into it, the students getting into it, the underdog team coming in and maybe having a chance to win a national championship. Now that we have a 12-team playoff, it still seems that the committee, they're showing bias to these other blue blood schools that really hadn't performed. Nobody wants to see Alabama and Georgia and Texas all get in when they're not undefeated or when they haven't won an SEC championship. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. We need something fresh. We need something new. We need something exciting, and that's Vanderbilt. And if anybody that doesn't agree with it, hey, go pee on yourself. But I'm thinking go Vandy boys, and I want to see the boys in, even though, they don't get the respect they deserve.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Shark. It's disappointing, as we've said, frustrating because the open's gonna have to change for this show because I say 10 wins in SEC school, you should be in. And it was actually Ian who said it on our way in here to the show. I don't think the committee wants 6 SEC teams in there. I think that there's a lot of SEC bias accusations, and Vanderbilt right now, sorry, Texas, you lost to Florida. Vanderbilt would be the 6th SEC team. And I think the committee doesn't want it to be half SEC in the field of 12.
Kudos to Greg Sankey. That's all I got to say. Kudos to Greg Sankey because he's done a really good job at campaigning this this entire conference for people to give a hard look at him and say, we really can't leave them out. We really can't leave them out. But as for Vandy's case, Vandy's always been in the SEC for the academic side of things.
Yeah.
Now they're doing both. Now they're with the academics and the athletics.
Top 25 in football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball.
I mean, how can you leave that out? And now you look at football, and there's a strong case that you got to incorporate them. I get the whole 6 teams, whatever, but if those 6 teams are the best teams in the top 12, you got to put them in.
We're going to a 16-team playoff. I mean, that made it abundantly clear this year because there are so many teams that I think are playoff worthy. I said there are 15 this year, not including the ACC champ and the group of 5 champs. There are 15 teams, and I think that is going to get us to the 16-team playoff sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and to the caller's point about just not wanting to see the Alabamas and Georgias of the world anymore in these playoffs, like for the time being, right, this year, I'm curious to know, and we don't have the answer to this, but I'm curious to know what the committee thinks if they're trying to really compare Vanderbilt's metrics to last year with like a Boise State or Arizona State, because that's kind of how I feel right now.
Yeah.
I feel like the committee's comparing them to that because once they get into the bright lights of the college football playoff, they're probably expecting them to lay a big one.
Well, it's probably more like Indiana from last year.
Right.
If Indiana had lost 2 games, they wouldn't have made the tournament. Like they wouldn't have been in the playoff, but they went 11-1. You couldn't have left them out, and they got blown out by Notre Dame in game 1. So I think Vanderbilt maybe needs this year to be their first year of Indiana of like, all right, Vandy's legit. And then they'll start getting more respect. But obviously that doesn't make you feel better about it right now. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. We have promised we'll talk Diego Pavia and the Heisman. We'll do that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Wrapping up hour number 1 on this Tuesday, talking Vanderbilt. We've gone through the college football playoff case, and we'll find out more tonight, but looking unlikely that Vanderbilt will be in position to reach the 12-team college football playoff. However, it is looking more and more likely by the day that Diego Pavia will not only just be in New York for the Heisman ceremony, but could end up being the one who holds the trophy in the end. I said last week, I came out and said, I think he deserved to win it, and he backed that up with his play, especially in the second half against Tennessee. And now it seems like the general public is starting to come around as well. I mentioned earlier that right now he is tied with Julian Sayin for the shortest odds to win the Heisman. And this weekend is a big weekend because Mendoza and Sayin face off in the Big Ten championship. But looking at the stats, I don't know how you can give it to anyone but Pavia right now. He's responsible for over 4,000 yards. Neither Sayin or Mendoza are close to that total. And he has 36 touchdowns responsible for, 27 on the through the air, 9 on the ground. Mendoza does have 38, but it's not like it's a wide margin there. I think Diego Pavia deserves to win the Heisman this year. And it may be one of the closest races we've ever had for the Heisman, but I think Pavia should be the one who ends up giving a speech in New York in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that Big Ten championship game, the best case scenario for a guy like Diego Pavia to win the Heisman would be
rock fight.
Well, but Ohio State just to run the ball and Fernando Mendoza to throw a couple picks and just crap the bed, essentially. Like that's what you kind of want from the Big Ten championship game, because then Pavia can just go, I wouldn't say run his mouth, but state his case for being the Heisman front runner.
The one thing that I think could turn it is if Mendoza lights it up and beats Ohio State this weekend. That it would be tough for Pavia to come back from that because, again, I said it yesterday, getting the last look is important too. There is a what have you done for me lately element to this award of how did you finish the season? And I think Diego finished the season about as strong as he could, but Mendoza and Sayin get the final statement this weekend in the national spotlight. And if Mendoza goes out and beats the number 1 team in the country, I think he would win it. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and looking at those two quarterbacks, Sayin and Mendoza, again, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the yak yards are for them in total in the season.
Yeah.
But you got to think if Mendoza craps the bed and then you got Sayin that dots it up with Cornell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, and a lot of those yards are yak yards, it makes you wonder, how can you really give it to a guy like that when Pavia's been versatile with his feet?
Yeah, I think Joe Rexrode said it perfectly on Robbie Rexrode this morning of, if you give it to Sayin, he's not even the fifth. He's the 5th best player on his own team. How can you say he's the most outstanding player in college football? Sayin can't win he should not win the Heisman Trophy. But Mendoza, I mean, Indiana, undefeated season. If they go in and beat Ohio State, who is obviously the most talented team in the country, I think he would be right there. But Pavia, I found it interesting. I was looking through to try and find like what is a typical Heisman season statistically for a quarterback, and none of these guys are close. I had to go all the way back to Jameis Winston in 2013 to find a quarterback who was responsible for less than 48 touchdowns.
Wow.
Like, even the ones that you say, oh, it was kind of a down year for the Heisman, like Caleb Williams a couple years ago when Hendon Hooker was the favorite to win it, but then he got hurt, and it was like, all right, well, Caleb Williams has been pretty good. Let's give it to him. He still had like 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns responsible for. So it is a down year. So I understand some of the people out there who are saying, like, how can you look at that and say Pavia deserves to win the Heisman? It's not his fault that no one else has stepped up. The most passing touchdowns in the country is 32. Like Jaden Daniels, I think, had 47 in his Heisman year a couple years ago.
That is a big gap.
So there isn't a quarterback who is putting up elite numbers, which is why there's a conversation around who's going to be the number 1 overall pick too. Diego Pavia is putting up the most elite numbers of all of them, over 4,000 yards. He's got over 800 yards rushing. That's included in the 4,000 yards. He's got 36 touchdowns, 9 on the ground. And he's taken Vanderbilt to a 10-win season and into the college football playoff race. He deserves to win it. He's been the most impactful player on this team, on his team in the country. Mendoza, he's got a chance to make a statement, but give me Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese, I think, on Saturday in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm curious. Looking back at that Kentucky game, Jake, and talking about Diego Pavia's Heisman case, I know we're quick here, but do you think Pavia should have played that fourth quarter to just state his case a little bit? I mean, obviously there was the mutual
No.
But
and I have been seeing some fans of opposing teams, whether that's Indiana or Ohio State fans saying Pavia doesn't deserve it, or Tennessee fans saying that he stat pads late in games. I'm like, he hasn't finished 5 out of the 12 games that they've played in. So I don't know where that's coming from. He stayed in maybe a drive extra against Kentucky because he was trying to break the single game passing record.
Correct.
Which makes sense. But it's not like he's been out there against Utah State and Charleston Southern just lighting it up in the fourth quarter. His stats have meant something. And I think he deserves to win it. Mendoza has the chance to prove everybody wrong and go in and beat the number 1 team in the country and stake his claim to it. But if you're voting right now, which you shouldn't be, but if you had to vote right now, I don't know how Diego isn't your Heisman favorite. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We're going to keep talking college football on the other side. The carousel continues to spin. We're going to give our winners and losers of the college football coaching carousel. We want to hear from you as well. 615-737-1025. You can text or call our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hour number 1 in the books. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Heavy college football show today. We will talk Titans later on, but the college football coaching carousel, I should say, has heated up over the last 48 hours or so. The Lane Kiffin saga finally came to an end. Mark Stoops was fired at Kentucky and already replaced by Will Stein, who comes over from Oregon as a coordinator. So I figured it's a good time with only a couple of major openings left. One big one, of course, in Penn State. Let's go through some winners and losers of the coaching carousel. And we want to hear from you as well, 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So I will go, my first winner of the coaching carousel has to be LSU, right? Lane Kiffin was the belle of the ball in this year's coaching cycle. Can you get Lane Kiffin away from Ole Miss? They did it. Who knows how it's going to turn out? The leash is going to be short at LSU. If he had stayed at Ole Miss, I think going 10-2, 9-3, 11-1 all the time would have been perfect. Ole Miss fans would have loved that. At LSU, that's not going to fly. If they don't get to a national championship game in the next 3 years, he might be looking for another job somewhere else. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, but for LSU, you fire Brian Kelly and you got the number one guy on the market.
I mean, good for them. This is exactly what they needed. Brian Kelly had that just get by mentality, in my opinion. Whereas for Lane Kiffin, you now have more resources. You can go after your marquee names in the transfer portal and also just recruiting in general. So again, LSU brings a lot to the table. There obviously been the reports that Ole Miss was going to match whatever they could, stuff like that. But
yeah.
I don't think Ole Miss is able to match anything, in my opinion, to LSU.
7 years, $91 million were the final terms. And we found out yesterday that LSU has agreed to pay the postseason bonuses for Lane Kiffin. So the further Ole Miss goes in the playoffs without him, the more money Lane Kiffin makes.
Just so petty. It's just college football's pettiness at its finest.
Who do you have as a winner in the coaching carousel?
I'm going Florida.
Okay.
I think
you like Summerall?
Yeah, I think that's a good little get for them. The fact of the matter is that's a program that's just oozing to win, that they want it so bad, and wherever Summerall's gone, he's won. So that's a factor you got to put into there. I mean, the whole Billy Napier experiment definitely crashed and burned. I think they made a wrong decision in letting Dan Mullen kind of part ways in that direction, because he's now at UNLV and they're in their conference championship game. So that's something you got to just put into the puzzle pieces. But Florida's done a really good job at getting together the resources they need.
Yeah, I think in terms of group of five coaches, Summerall was the golden goose. That's the guy that you wanted. Golish, great. He's at Auburn now. Silverfield, good. He's at Arkansas. But Summerall was the guy that everybody was looking at. And I think that was a good hire from Florida. Yeah, Billy Napier didn't work out, but he was coming from the Sun Belt. American's a little bit of a higher level of competition. So we'll see if that turns out. I don't know if they want to keep DJ Lagway. I would guess they probably do, but that might be one of his first orders of business, is trying to see if they can keep the former 5-star.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, again, kind of the same like the Ole Miss situation. How many guys from Tulane are going to transfer over,
right,
and really help out that Florida team? And it's just a small plane flight away. I mean, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
So that's something to look into. I like DJ Lagway. I think he's a good quarterback.
The talent's there.
Yeah. I just think he was being hindered under the Billy Napier hierarchy of coaching. So we'll see what happens.
There you go.
The offseason is what we'll see.
I got LSU as a winner. Nick's got Florida. Parker, do you have a winner of the coaching carousel back there?
I'm going to agree with Nick because the obvious answer is going to be Lane Kiffin, but I'm going to say John Summerall at Florida. I believe this was a home run hire for them because they've tried getting the flashy up-and-coming guys. And yes, John Summerall is coming from the group of five, but I believe with this Florida job and the access that you have to recruiting, especially in Florida, they just need a guy that coaches ball and doesn't put up with any of the bull crap. And that's John Summerall. He's one of those guys that he has 24 hours in the day, and he's like, okay, I'm going to sleep 5, and the other 19, I'm going to figure out what I can do to get my team in the best position to win. He won the press conference, not really a surprise, but it's a home run hire for Florida.
Yeah, I like that one. I think they they did the best they could, especially when they were in on Kiffin for a little bit there. They pivoted. They still got one of the best names on the market. Couple other winners that I had. Virginia Tech. I think for Virginia Tech in terms of when they fired Brent Pry in September, they didn't think James Franklin was ever going to be a possibility, right? Like at that point, they were the number 2 team in the country. So when they fired Brent Pry, they exceeded expectations of who they were going to get as a coach. And they are poaching Penn State's recruiting class as we speak, heading into signing day tomorrow. So I think Virginia Tech is a winner. That's at least a hire that can get them back into contention in the ACC. Kentucky, I'm going to go with the winner of Kentucky. If Connor Newt's listening, it seems like a lot of the big schools forgot that coordinators can end up being good coaches too, right? Like Dan Lanning was a coordinator when he went to Oregon. That ended up being probably the best hire of that 2022 cycle, or one of them. Will Stein, that's a good hire from Oregon, and I think that's what Kentucky needed. You needed a guy who has a high ceiling, who can come in and try and turn that program around. I think that's a more inspiring hire than even like Golish from South Florida, who really just had 1-2 good years. I really like it. I like that Will Stein hire for Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely puts them in the middle of the pack of the SEC. It doesn't put them at the bottom of, I wouldn't say the dirt of the SEC. It just makes them competitive again. And I'm not saying they weren't this year, but it makes them even more competitive because, again, all these coordinators and group of 5 coaches that are coming to the SEC, it bodes the case of more opportunities to recruit, more opportunities for money, all that stuff. And that's what the SEC is about. It's about the best football in all of college football.
Yes, and for Kentucky, they're clearly not on the level to compete with Alabama and Georgia. Like they need to go a different route, and I think finding an up and coming guy, that's the way to do it. So I like the hire there. It moved very quickly, which makes you think that Mark Stoops has been fired for a while now, and they've been looking, but that's a good hire for Kentucky and closes up all of the openings in the SEC now. And we'll talk about losers in a second, but we have neglected to talk about the biggest winner of all in the coaching carousel this year. And that is super agent Jimmy Sexton. Because not only did he get money for all of the coaches who got new contracts, James Franklin getting like $10 million a year at Virginia Tech, Lane Kiffin getting $13 million at LSU, but he also got extensions for like all of his other clients because he was playing these schools like, hey, Florida wants Clark Lee. You're going to have to pay him. All right. He gets an extension. Jimmy Sexton made himself a lot of money over the last month or so.
Sounds like Christmas is going to be fun this year.
Pretty good in the Sexton house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was he is the winner of the coaching carousel, bar none. Everybody else did great. We can talk about winners of LSU and Florida, Virginia Tech, all those names. Jimmy Sexton is the winner of the coaching carousel.
There's one coach that has not been mentioned because he recently just got fired in the NFL, but his agent is also Jimmy Sexton. Do you think,
Brian Daboll? Brian Callahan?
Chip Kelly.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what Chip Kelly's going to do.
Look, I'm not saying the Penn State job is open for him, but a guy that's familiar in the Big Ten, teams like that, like in Oregon and Ohio State, I wouldn't see why Penn State wouldn't reach out to him at least.
Penn State fans might riot if they fired James Franklin to bring in Chip Kelly.
Well, look, right now they're searching for answers. And I'm just throwing a name out there because that's all they really have. There's no other guy to really go grab right now.
Right. And we can talk about Penn State on the other side. We're going to get into the losers of the college football coaching carousel. And shocker, Penn State tops the list. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. We're going through the winners and the losers of the college football coaching carousel. Still spinning, but a lot of the spots have been filled. We went through, said winners include LSU, Florida, Virginia Tech, Kentucky, Jimmy Sexton, the super agent. Now the losers, and there's only one place we can start with this, and that is the Penn State Nittany Lions, who still do not have a head coach. And James Franklin is poaching their recruiting class as we speak. I just looked. Virginia Tech got two more four-star former Penn State commits to commit to the Hokies this morning. Virginia Tech's recruiting class has moved up to 43rd in the country with all of these 11 Penn State former commits that have now gone to Blacksburg. And Penn State, Parker, I already told Nick this, but Parker, can you give me a guess where Penn State falls in the 247 recruiting ranking? And actually, we're getting a phone call, so we'll let Parker handle that. Penn State ranked 129th in the recruiting rankings, behind powerhouse programs such as Northern Arizona, UC Davis, Cal Poly, and Harvard.
Even the bookworms are over the Penn State Lions. I mean, my goodness.
Penn State has 5 commits right now. They have 4 four-star commits. And one of them, I believe, is this safety, Matt Sieg, is rumored to possibly be going to Blacksburg too. He's their best player in their class.
Holy cow.
So there's a chance they end up with only 4 commits, and signing day is tomorrow.
So,
and they still don't have a head coach.
I mean, that's...
I'm back. Sorry.
Go ahead, Parker.
What was the question?
The question is, where do you think Penn State's recruiting class is ranked right now?
Oh, pretty low. Very low.
129.
Yeah. It was already not good when James Franklin was there, but now it's really bad.
They're one spot behind Harvard.
Yeah, Franklin's taken all of their guys.
Yeah, so 11 former Penn State commits are now committed to Virginia Tech, and the number one guy left for Penn State, I haven't heard for sure, but I have seen rumors that he might go to Virginia Tech too.
And that was the thing. That was why I didn't really understand this firing, because they were going to take a step back regardless, because they were losing all their seniors.
Yeah.
Their recruiting class wasn't good. Their transfer portal class has not been good historically. So they were already going to take a step back. So you fire Franklin, you bring in a new guy, you're setting him up to fail right away.
And Corey Curtis has said it on this show of clearly people in Happy Valley did not like James Franklin, and they were waiting for an excuse to fire him, and he loses 3 games in a row, including to UCLA and Northwestern, and they took that excuse and they got rid of him. But there has to be some regret right now, right? They can't find anybody to take that job. Everybody who was at the top of their list at the beginning, Kurt Cignetti was probably the number one. He signs an extension. Matt Rule, who is a Penn State alum and supposedly best friends with Pat Kraft, he signs an extension. Mike Elko signs an extension. Clark Lee signs an extension. Right now, the rumor is Kalani Sitake at BYU. And guess what? It seems like BYU is starting to coax him back to Provo. They might just be left holding the bag, and I don't know who they're going to hire.
Look, if BYU ends up making the playoff, I'm sure we'll see, like Oprah, you get an extension, you get an extension,
right.
He's going to get one. We all know it.
Well, the reports I've seen is that Penn State basically offered him so much money that he couldn't say no. But then the community of BYU, which religious, is pulling him back in.
Right.
And trying to raise money to keep him there. So I don't know. It's a whole saga there, but Penn State was interested in Bob Chesney of James Madison, and he's at UCLA now. It's a disaster up there. And I don't know, there's no one left that you can look at and objectively say, yeah, they got better from James Franklin.
That's fair. That's really fair. Look, I'm going to go back to the well here. And as I mentioned in the last break, Chip Kelly, think about it. Just think about it for a second.
It might be one of the better options left.
I think it's the only option they have right now, in my opinion, because if you look at the 2024 Ohio State National Championship winning team as an offensive coordinator, they ranked 14th in FBS, scoring 35.7 points per game. If you're Penn State, why would you not want to sign up for that? I get all the stuff with the Raiders didn't work out well, but again, that's Geno Smith in a discombobulated offense. NFL is completely different from college. Chip Kelly's had a lot of success in college football when
He
it
has.
comes to Oregon, when it comes to Ohio State.
But didn't he leave UCLA because he didn't want to be a head coach at the college level anymore?
Yes, but I think in just looking at it from the outside, looking in, if you're Chip Kelly and you go to a Power 4 school in Penn State over a team like UCLA, there's more resources at Penn State. And again, maybe he doesn't want to go up against Ohio State every year. I get it. But why would you not want to be coaching at the highest level of college football, minus the SEC?
Yeah. Heupel basically said that he doesn't want that job yesterday. Kalen DeBoer was a big name for Penn State, and I can't see him leaving now. If they lost to Auburn, I think he would be in Happy Valley right now. But
what if Alabama loses convincingly
in the SEC championship?
Correct. Like, say, by 3 possessions.
So
you think Bama fans would leave a sour taste in their mouth?
That's an interesting point of what if BYU beats
Texas
Tech. And if BYU wins that game, maybe Kalani Sitake says, you know what, I'm going to stay here. You know, we're having so much success.
Right.
But DeBoer gets blown out by Georgia. And because BYU steals a bid, Alabama gets left out. I could see it. And I think that's maybe what Penn State is hoping for right now. Jeremy in Clarksville says Pat Fitzgerald to Penn State. Isn't Pat Fitzgerald going to Michigan State?
That's what I saw last night.
Yeah, so he's already gone. And honestly, that would have been a fine hire, I think, for Penn State. Maybe not a flashy one. 7002 says Dayball. Is that – my question is for Penn State. Like, you fired James Franklin because it wasn't good enough. Getting to the national semifinals last year, albeit they only beat what? Boise State and who'd they beat in the first round? SMU and Boise State. Yeah, maybe a little fluky to get to the semifinals, but that wasn't good enough. Is it going to be good enough to hire Brian Daboll to be your head coach? I don't think so. Like, the expectations by firing James Franklin, you have set the expectation at we want to win a national championship. No one wants to come in here with those expectations. That's why no one has taken the job yet. And you're not going to find anybody who can actually live up to those expectations at this point in the coaching cycle.
I mean, you're right.
I don't know what they're going to do. I've compared it to Vrabel multiple times of, yes, it made sense to fire him based on like what your expectations were.
Correct.
But it's like, it's not always better, right? Like, you fired Vrabel because you said he got us to the AFC championship, but couldn't get us to the Super Bowl. And we want to win Super Bowls. Well, look where you are now. I think Penn State might be in for a pretty big reckoning in the next couple of years.
Titans are winning the toilet bowl.
Yes, they are. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Keegan is called in. Keegan, good morning. Thanks for calling. What you got?
Hey, good morning, fellas. So what I got is, Jake, you've said it twice now. You said it once earlier. That's what made me call in. But you brought up how if BYU wins the Big 12 championship, that could knock Alabama out of the playoff with a loss to Georgia. I think that's super interesting. I'd love to talk about that for a second because I don't see how, in a world where the SEC championship representative taking a loss, they could get knocked out. That seems almost impossible in my eyes, just based on what the SEC is. You got the top 2 teams in the conference going, playing for the championship. And even if Bama loses, they'd be 10-3 afterwards. It's not like, Texas at 9-3, they got 10 wins. And on the intro, you say 10 wins in the SEC, you're in.
I know we're going to have to change
what I mean?
aren't we?
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to change that one. That's going to have to get on out of here, dude. That's starting to look worse and worse by the week. But no, that's really – it's a hard scenario for me to buy into that Alabama loses and makes it out of the playoffs. Because if you look at their schedule, their resume, they went on a stretch, I believe, like 5 straight games of beating a ranked opponent, multiple on the road. Their only conference loss to Oklahoma is when Oklahoma's at their absolute peak. They beat teams like Vanderbilt. They've already beat Georgia, a playoff lock, essentially. I understand that if BYU wins the Big 12, they get into the playoffs, and you don't really want to take Texas Tech out. But you're telling me a team like Notre Dame or Miami deserves it over Alabama, and I just can't buy into that. That's kind of all I got. I just want to hear kind of your thoughts on that.
That's a good question, Keegan. Actually, let's have this conversation on the other side, because that grouping in the playoff rankings tonight is the one that is the most interesting. because
I agree.
Alabama's in front of Notre Dame right now. Or excuse me, Notre Dame's in front of Alabama right now, which puts you in a very tough spot if BYU does win, because you would have to knock Alabama out by process of elimination. But if you put Alabama in front of Notre Dame tonight, it sets it up that Alabama could lose, still get in if BYU wins, and then you have the Notre Dame-Miami question. We can talk about that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly alongside you on this Tuesday. Keegan just called in with an interesting question. This weekend, there's not a ton of changes that could happen with the rankings. Right? For the most part, the teams that are in. The teams that are out when the rankings come out tonight will be out. But the two power conference games that you need to look at are Alabama, Georgia, and Texas Tech, BYU. Because the ACC championship is Virginia and Duke. And I guess that one is important, but that bid is going to go to either Virginia, Duke, or James Madison. Nobody else. And then the AAC, that winner's getting in. So you're good there. But the SEC championship, Alabama's 10-2. They should be in. And Keegan makes a good point of how are you going to leave the SEC runner-up out if BYU was to win and clinch their spot in the field. And I don't understand how the committee is going to unravel the knot they've tied themselves into, because right now Alabama is the last team in for an at-large bid. If BYU was to win and Alabama was to lose, BYU would steal one of the at-large bids and Alabama would be pushed out if they keep the rankings the way that they are. But I said to you during the break, I think the committee is just trying to keep as little blood on their hands as possible. And so tonight, it would not shock me if they, for some reason or another, that they make up, Alabama jumps Notre Dame, and therefore Notre Dame becomes that team on the bubble. And then they can say, all right, if BYU wins, we don't have to worry about being told that we are punishing Alabama for losing in the SEC championship game by leaving them out. And they can kind of use that last spot as the line of demarcation of, okay, if BYU wins, both Notre Dame and Miami are out, so it doesn't matter. If BYU loses, then they have to make that decision between Notre Dame and Miami.
That's a tough call.
I'd hate to be in that committee room.
Look, I see another team in this top 12, a team in Oklahoma. This is how, if I'm the committee member, I would say this. Oklahoma only beat LSU by 4 points. LSU is not a great ball club. You drop them and have Notre Dame and Alabama jump, I guess, Oklahoma.
Well, Oklahoma beat Alabama. This is the issue, is the committee has to, the results on the field have to matter. Like, you have to factor in head-to-head and say, Oklahoma beat Alabama, Alabama beat Vanderbilt. That's why Vanderbilt,
and Miami beat Notre Dame.
But that doesn't seem to matter.
Exactly. I bring Vanderbilt back into this equation real quick because you made the case, and I heard it yesterday, when you have teams that Vanderbilt beats as in LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, all those teams drop. And you look at a team like LSU, not Ole Miss, but Oklahoma plays them. They beat them by 4. Oklahoma's not dropping, obviously, because they won. But then you have other teams underneath them, and you're thinking, well, how do you counteract that? And like to y'all's point now, like if Miami Notre Dame doesn't matter in this ranking, then how do you differentiate any?
Right. This is what the committee has done to themselves, is head-to-head only seems to matter some places. And that's why Vanderbilt is out right now, right? Like, Vanderbilt is out because Oklahoma beat Alabama and Alabama beat Vanderbilt. And I'm fine with that. That is a logical case to say the results on the field matter. Oklahoma beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Vanderbilt lost to Alabama. So we're going to seed them like that.
Right.
But then you say, oh, well, Notre Dame's still above Miami. Yeah, if we were comparing those two teams, the head-to-head result would come into play, but they're not even in the same pool. I'm like, how? How are they not in the same pool?
Right.
They're both 10-2. They've played similar schedules, right? Like Miami and Notre Dame both basically played an ACC schedule.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, of course, played Purdue and Arkansas and Boise State, but they played, for the most part, an ACC schedule. Yeah, the head-to-head result has to matter. If it were me, based on what the committee has said so far, or at least the way they have it, Notre Dame would be out. I would put Vanderbilt in over Miami, but I don't think they're going to put 6 SEC teams in.
I just still factor in a team like Ole Miss that's at 7. I think you have to devalue them a little bit. I get we're waiting till Friday, whatever.
I think they will play on the road instead of at home.
Okay.
Like, I think that is the punishment they'll get for not having their head coach is instead of being the 6 seed, they might be the 9 seed, and they have to go on the road in the first round.
That's the thing, though. If Ole Miss were to drop from 7 to 9, and then the conference championship plays out, Bama in Georgia, and that's a tight game, to me, you look at some teams like a Vanderbilt or a Utah or Miami or BYU that are on the outside looking in, and more BYU not so much, but like that's where I would say maybe the eye test does bode well for those teams on the outside. And I know I'm kind of deviating from the Alabama or Notre Dame conversation, but that to me is what drags my eye more than this Notre Dame Alabama situation.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to look at this weekend from this weekend for the committee. And when they start to get towards 15 in the rankings, the things I'm keeping an eye on, does Vanderbilt move up and how far do they move up? I think they should move past Utah to at least 13. We'll see if maybe they reconsider Vanderbilt, Miami, Vanderbilt, BYU based on the blowout win in Knoxville. I'm not counting on it. But then when you get into the top 10, they have to position themselves for who is going to be on that cut line if BYU wins. Because I don't think BYU gets in as an at-large. But if BYU beats Texas Tech, an 11-2 Texas Tech team, I think, is still good enough to get in. And the question becomes, do you leave out the SEC runner-up in Alabama? Do you leave out the team that beat them in Oklahoma? Or do you leave out Notre Dame and Miami? It's there. That is the chaos in this college football playoff scenario, that they're hoping BYU loses and they don't have to make that decision. If BYU wins, a lot of tough calls are going to have to be made in that committee room.
Yeah. Look, BYU is the one constant in all this equation. If it were me, more than likely, just my guts telling me they're going to lose to Texas Tech. And if they,
I agree.
And if they lose by 3 or more scores, that's where you got to have the conversation of, all right, where does all these 2 or 3 teams right behind? Like, to me, Miami, I think, is out of the equation. I don't think they should be included in this playoff. They haven't proved enough to be a part of the eye test. They haven't proved enough in beating teams, in my opinion. Whereas you look at a team like Vanderbilt, they have all the they've checked all the boxes in a roundabout way. That's the best way to put it. It just, that bothers me a little bit. The fact that you have a Heisman candidate quarterback and the team's going to be left out of the playoff. That makes sense to me. It doesn't.
I will say I've said ad nauseum over the past 3 weeks that Vanderbilt's resume is better than Notre Dame and Miami. Doesn't seem like the committee wants to take a look at that. Like I really don't think they are comparing Notre Dame and Vanderbilt, because they said they're not comparing Notre Dame and Miami, so Vanderbilt's a spot behind Miami. Clearly, they're not looking at the resumes. They need to have a good, hard look at that and reconsider. Do I think they're going to? No, but I think they should. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Vandy Chris is on the line. Thanks for calling. What you got for us?
So when I originally called, I was going to talk about the college football coaching hires. My number 1 is absolutely Virginia Tech. My number 2 is absolutely Auburn. But I'm willing to change direction and talk about the college football playoffs.
Whatever you want.
There's a rule in the college football playoff committee rule book that they go by, and it says a team can be devalued based on availability of coaches and players. They've already set a precedent 2 years ago when they kept an undefeated Florida State out of the playoffs. They set that precedent. Ole Miss, the one thing that's keeping them in this conversation is their offense. Their defense is absolutely terrible by the metrics, and it's their offense that keeps that team going. They just lost their head coach and their entire offensive staff. If that rule, and it's been left in there for a reason, if that rule is still there, if there's ever a case, you have to leave Ole Miss out based on the precedent that's already been set with Florida State. I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm going to hang up and listen to you talk about it and see what y'all have to say about that.
Thanks for the call, Chris. I understand the thought process of they should be left out. Yeah, Lane Kiffin's gone. Their offensive court, Weiss left. I get it. They're 11-1 though, and I don't think you can punish the players because Lane Kiffin decided to go chase the job at LSU.
I'm with Chris on this.
You think they should be out?
I really do think Ole Miss should be out of this playoff because, look, say they get into the playoff and they crap the bed, that's on the committee. They made the wrong decision. And then you leave a 10-2 Vandy team out that's probably going to win their bowl game because this team has proved everything in their power that they belong in this top 12. I'm in the camp what Chris just said. Look, I know I'm a Mississippi State fan.
That's the Mississippi State fan in him.
No,
that is the Bulldog in him right there.
Look, Lane left so we could fly. I'm cool with that. But this is a team right now. If come Friday, I'd say if there's more than 12 players that leave that roster, they need to be out of this playoff easily.
So if they had lost another game, if they were 10-2 and they were in this muddled mess of 10-2 SEC teams with Oklahoma, Alabama, Vanderbilt, I would agree. Kick Ole Miss out because that is a serious factor in how they're going to perform in the playoffs. Not having their head coach, not having their offensive staff, but you can't leave an 11-1 SEC team out.
Chris is right. I mean, the CFP did set the committee. However, if this was the 4-team era, Ole Miss is one. I mean, they're not even in consideration.
Right. They wouldn't have been in consideration,
right?
And they would have been dropped completely out of consideration.
This is a 12-team playoff. A lot of it is for money. If you leave an 11-1 SEC team out, Greg Sankey will raise hell.
Yes,
and then the SEC will secede from college football, and then you're really going to be in a big mess.
Yeah, I can't see the college football playoff leaving Ole Miss out. I think they will, again, quote unquote, punish them and drop them into having a road game instead of a home game, but you can't drop them out of the field completely.
I mean, look, that's fair to penalize them, but I'm telling you, if there's more than like 12 to 15 players that leave this roster.
Right. Well, that's a different story. And
that's what I'm expecting.
I guess that won't be factored in, but they can transfer later on. It's not like if they don't transfer now, they can't transfer in the offseason. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see tonight how they rate Ole Miss because, again, based on the on-field product, they shouldn't move very much. But the committee could drop them a spot or two just based on not having Lane Kiffin, not having their offensive coaching staff. And then, again, the Alabama, Notre Dame, Miami, Vanderbilt. How does that all look when the rankings come out tonight? Because, again, the rankings tonight, for better or for worse, are probably not going to change all that much based on championship weekend. So you're going to get a very good idea of what the 12-team bracket is going to look like coming up tonight. I believe it's a 7:00 show, the rankings reveal.
Yeah, normally it's 7, yeah.
Again, Vanderbilt, I think, has to be 11 to have a chance. So they got to move up 3 spots, which would mean likely passing Utah, Miami, and then BYU or Notre Dame. You got to be up there, and it's a lot of spots for you to get up.
If they bump up to 12 and not 11, I think they're still in contention because if BYU loses to Texas Tech in that Big 12 championship game, to me, that puts them in.
Well, you'd still be 11. Only the top 10.
That's right. Sorry, 10. Excuse me.
So you would need Alabama to look really bad, which Alabama would have 3 losses, but they'd beat Vanderbilt. It's a jumbled mess.
And let's remember, how you play in November is what really matters.
And Vanderbilt played very well in November. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'll wrap up our college football conversation coming up next. We will talk Titans in the final hour of the show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, finishing up the second hour of the show. We will talk some Titans in hour number 3. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Charles is on the line. Charles, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Listen, I want to throw another team in there that has one bad loss. They got a total of 3 losses, but they've got one bad loss. They went up against a top-ranked Ohio State team, got beat by 7 points. They went up against another team, top-ranked team, Georgia, who beat them. And their worst loss was against Florida. Now, Georgia has gotten beat by a team that Florida beat. Georgia was beat by Florida State, which was a whole lot worse team than getting beat by Florida. So if Georgia loses the SEC championship, they ought to be completely out like Texas is. But I think Texas is the best 9-3 team in the SEC. And if Georgia gets booted out and Vandy doesn't get in and Texas beat OU, Texas needs to be in above OU, because you're talking about Oklahoma beating Georgia. Well, Texas beat Oklahoma. So the wins got to count as well as the losses. And Texas' bad loss, I will agree, was against Florida. But Florida State beat Georgia, beat Alabama too. So you tell me. I'm going to get off there and listen.
Thanks for the call, Charles. Lots to unpack there. Texas is one of those teams that the College Football Playoff Committee has a decision to make. Do they value the good wins over the bad losses? And I would argue that Florida loss should be disqualifying, considering how many teams are 10-2 this year. Like last year, if this Texas resume was last year, where there was an argument for a 9-3 Alabama to get in, a 9-3 South Carolina, and a 9-3 Ole Miss, then I think Texas would have a great shot to get in, because you're right. They scheduled one of the top teams in the country, the number 1 team in the country this year, on the road, and lost by 7 points. That game was a whole lot less competitive than 7 points, by the way. But anyway, you lost to Florida. And the eye test has to matter too. I understand a win is a win, and you don't fault Texas for the way they won football games, but they needed every ounce of effort and luck and everything to beat Mississippi State and Kentucky in overtime. I get it. They won the football games, but the eye test has to matter a little bit with them too. That's why Vandy has been held back, right? It was close wins against Missouri and a close win against Auburn. I think that was what was pulling them back from being above some of these teams in the rankings. With Texas, yes, they have impressive wins. Oklahoma, that was with Mateer coming off of his injury. It was his first game back. They've got Vanderbilt, which they handled that game for the most part. Almost lost in the end, but handled it. And then they beat Texas A&M, only team to beat Texas A&M. It's a great win. But that doesn't erase the fact that you lost to Florida, and you really should have lost to Mississippi State, and you could have lost to Kentucky.
2 things. First thing is the Mississippi State and Kentucky wins for Texas. Like you said, both those in overtime.
They're wins,
but they're not ranked wins. You mentioned Missouri. Missouri was a ranked win for Vanderbilt at the time.
Yeah.
And you also talk about the eye test and looking at early on in the season for the second thing for me. You look at Texas' schedule and they go up against UTEP, San Jose State, 2 games where one of them was 38 points, the other one was 27 for them. Look at Vanderbilt at the start of their season. Charleston Southern, 45-3. Virginia Tech, 44-20. I mean,
yeah,
it just goes on and on. Georgia State, 70 points. To me, if the eye test saying something, margin of victory, and we've kind of seen it a little bit tongue-in-cheek from the committee, it matters.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look at Utah. That's basically the reason they're in the top 15 is because they've blown out all the bad teams they played.
Yeah. And that's why I think Vanderbilt's case is stronger than Utah's, because I think their margins of victory are better than Utah's.
Craig on the text line says, by what you just said, Alabama shouldn't jump Notre Dame this week, because if a loss to Florida disqualifies you, a loss to Florida State should disqualify you too. I did not say Alabama should jump Notre Dame. Yeah. I said I think the committee is going to do it to try and get less blood on their hands.
Right.
And Alabama only has 2 losses. I get it's not a win counting exercise. It's not, all right, all you 12-0 teams are here, 11-1 here, 10-2, 9-3. Like, there can be a 9-3 team that is a better team than a 10-2 team. But Texas, if they had just beaten Florida, they would probably be hosting a game in the playoff, but they didn't. And the 2 games they lost to Georgia and Ohio State, it's not like they were right there. Sure, 14-7 was the final score in the Ohio State game. Did anyone ever think Texas had a real shot to win that game? Ohio State handled them.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Georgia by 25. Like, it's not like, oh, we were right there. Even Florida wasn't that close. They got it back to 8 at the end. It wasn't that close. Texas, great job. You beat Texas A&M, but sorry. It's not going to be enough. You're going to be on the outside looking in.
You mentioned there might be a 9-3 team out there that's better than a 10-2 team. Like, is there a 10-2 team better than 11-1 team? You know where I'm going with this question. I'm poking at the bear.
If you had to give me some of these 10-2 teams over Texas A&M, I'd take them.
Or Ole Miss.
Ole Miss too. Yeah. I would, in a game in the playoffs, I would take Alabama over A&M or Ole Miss.
Yeah, I would too.
Just on the field. But, we got some news.
Oh boy.
Should we wait?
Can it wait 5 minutes?
Let's give it to you now. We'll talk about it on the other side.
OMG.
From Hayes Fawcett of Rivals, 5-star plus quarterback Jared Curtis has flipped his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt.
Boom. Boom.
And he will sign tomorrow. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. We were going to talk some Titans, but not anymore. Breaking news from Vanderbilt. Michaela Blake's named SEC Co-Player of the Week. Just kidding. That is true, though. Jared Curtis has flipped his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt. 5-star plus quarterback will be coming to West End.
Wow. Absolutely wow.
And this had been rumored for weeks. Of course, this isn't some earth-shattering news, but I was starting to doubt a little bit that it was going to happen. You know, that it started the Missouri weekend when game day came to town, and Jared Curtis visited that game. And then the quote came out, "Oh, I'm committed to Georgia. I just wanted to go and see game day." All right, whatever. Then within the last week or so, some crystal balls started coming from the recruiting people of, we're projecting him to flip to Vanderbilt. Then his mom tweeted about, "I prefer black and red, go Dogs," to black and gold. All right. So it was all kind of up in the air. With signing day tomorrow, he's going to sign, I believe, at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Jared Curtis has just flipped his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt. Highest rated recruit in program history. He is ranked as the third best player in the country by both 247 and Rivals. He is the number one quarterback in the country by Rivals. Unbelievable.
I'm at a loss of words. This is great. The fact of the matter is, this Clark Lee era is set for the future. Like that, if you can get buy-in from current juniors on this roster for Vanderbilt, like a guy like Junior Sherrill, prime example. If you can keep those juniors as to be seniors, this is great for a young quarterback. Like, I'm not saying he'll start, but more than likely a 5-star quarterback in this situation will start.
I would think that's, again, hunch here. I think part of the reason he's coming to Vanderbilt is a promise to play.
Yes, exactly. And probably don't want me to say that, but I mean, you just got to look at it that perspective. Clark Lee has now revitalized a Vandy football program from 2 wins to now 10 wins and getting 5-star recruits. This is fantastic.
Well, and 5-star recruits lead to more 4- and 5-star recruits, right? Like, these guys all know each other. And I'm sure the idea for maybe a high school wide receiver out there who's uncommitted, or a young receiver in the portal, get to go play with Jared Curtis. This is the proof that Vanderbilt is not just a flash in the pan, right? This is the proof that, hey, it's going to be the same old Vanderbilt once Diego leaves. That's not the case. This Vandy team has the right coach. They just extended him, and they've got the investment from the top down in the university to go get players like Jared Curtis. This is the start of Vandy becoming a perennial contender in the SEC. Not saying that they're going to be Alabama. Like, it takes a long time to become a team that's competing for national championships, but Vandy is no longer going to be the doormat of the SEC, as Paul Feinbaum so nicely put it in the SEC documentary.
Yeah.
That's not them anymore. They're going to compete with everybody on the field and off the field.
It's beautiful to see. Like, my biggest thing now as a person that loves roster construction, you just got to find a way to keep your big guys, your juniors, your sophomores and juniors from transferring out. This is the number one key to the success. Nobody's leaving now. If I'm Clark Lee, I'd be like, what else do I have to prove to you guys? You want the money? We'll give it to you. You want to play? You want some play time? We'll give it to you. We got a quarterback now that can lead us for the future. That is the case until the dotted line is signed tomorrow. But
it's been the recruitment of Jared Curtis has been hilarious. From Nate Bargatze going on game day and during the Texas Tech BYU selection, bringing up Jared Curtis, and to Diego Pavia multiple times bringing his name up, which I don't know exactly the rules on all that, but yesterday was caught on camera. Taylor Lewan asked him before their Bussin' with the Boys interview, could Vandy be 10-2 without Diego Pavia? And he said, I guess we'll find out with Jared Curtis. There we go.
And maybe that was just him being loud-mouthing. He didn't know
right.
anything.
Maybe he doesn't know. I would guess there was some sort of knowledge there for Diego Pavia, but this is absolutely massive for Vanderbilt. 5-stars don't come around all the time, especially 5-star quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And it's showing you that the reputation of Vanderbilt around this area is changing. And there's a lot of talented high school football players in Middle Tennessee. And for a long time, I think the idea was, why would I want to go to Vandy? Right? Like sure, staying home would be great, but it's like, I don't really want to go to Vandy. That's changed. You just got a 5-star in your backyard to stay home, and you're selling. Vanderbilt's an easy school to sell when the teams are playing well, right? Like Vanderbilt is now a winning football team in the SEC, the best conference in the country. You get one of the best degrees in the country, the best degree that you can get at the very least while playing high-level football. And you live in Nashville, Tennessee, which, apologies to Starkville, Mississippi.
No,
but
go ahead.
Other SEC towns aren't Nashville, Tennessee. It's easy to sell Vanderbilt, especially when the team is competitive, and you're seeing that by getting Jared Curtis to stay home.
Yeah, I mean, look, why not stay home and get a home-cooked meal from your mom and dad, right?
Right, or go to a nice restaurant in town,
too.
right? Like there's probably more steakhouses per capita here than in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
And so, or, Athens is right near Atlanta. But anyway, it is showing you that Vanderbilt can compete on the recruiting trail. They can compete on the field. And Jared Curtis is a huge dam-breaking moment for this Vanderbilt team that obviously they lost 10 games in a row 2 years ago. And they've built themselves back up to being a college football playoff contender on the field. And now you're setting yourself up for the future. 5-star quarterback.
Yeah, my only thing that we'll only know until next year, but like, how's the offense going to look under a guy like Jared Curtis? Because he's not Diego Pavia.
No, he is.
Just say it. Better than Diego.
He is better than Diego
Go
Pavia.
ahead. Yeah.
And that is nothing against Diego Pavia. And I don't want anybody calling in and saying because Diego Pavia has been exactly what Vanderbilt needed.
Right.
But to act like Vanderbilt couldn't find a more talented quarterback than Diego Pavia was crazy. And they just did. Diego Pavia is not the most talented quarterback. He has the it factor.
Correct.
And he has improved leaps and bounds as a thrower of the football. And I think he will be an NFL draft pick. But he is not the most talented quarterback Vanderbilt could get. You just found maybe the most talented quarterback in this year's high school class. And yeah, maybe he won't be as good as Diego, because Diego does have that intangible value to the team of always making the right decision and the dog in him of like the leader and being the conduit from Clark Lee to the locker room. I don't know if Jared Curtis has that, but in terms of pure football talent, Jared Curtis has more than Diego Pavia.
100%. I mean, he's sculpted to be the quarterback. I mean, 6'4", what, 240, 220.
Right. You look at Diego Pavia, like that's not central casting for a quarterback. Jared Curtis is it's like if you built a quarterback in a lab. He's big. He's got a big arm. He's fast. I mean, the touchdown from 2 weeks ago, the 77-yard rushing touchdown where he just mowed down a safety. Like, this is a talented quarterback that's coming in. And this, as I said earlier, Jared Curtis, I think, is probably only the beginning of other highly rated recruits are going to see this and say, man, if Jared's going to go to Vanderbilt, maybe I'm going to go to Vanderbilt too. And the job that Clark Lee and Jerry Kill and Barton Simmons and that whole staff over there has done, I think this like 2-week period is the culmination of everything. You go into Knoxville, you win to get to 10-2, 10 wins for the first time in program history. You get your first 5-star in program history, number 3 recruit in the country, and your current quarterback might go win the Heisman in like 12 days.
The thing I love most about all this, it dates back to the summer when Pavia went on Busting with the Boys for the first time, and he manifested all this and said, yeah, we're going to run the state of Tennessee.
I know.
Yeah, we're going to play for a national championship. And I'm like, wow, he's got some cojones to say that way before the season, coming off a 7-6 year. And now they're 10-2, and you think, oh, okay, all right, manifestation, I'm cool with it.
Right. I mean, he was laughed at. And even this past week, all those clips were circulating, whether it was Busting with the Boys or SEC Media Days of, we're going to run the state of Tennessee. He had some very choice words for Tennessee fans on the Netflix documentary, which always makes me laugh. If you haven't seen it, go find the clip of Diego Pavia saying, the first part of it is, we will beat Tennessee any given day. Yeah. I can't say the next part on air, but Diego Pavia, he backed all of it up. And Now Vanderbilt has his successor. 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis has flipped his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt and is expected to sign with the Commodores tomorrow morning. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on this breaking news. And this sets up a very interesting rivalry in the state of Tennessee. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Breaking news at the top of the hour: Jared Curtis, 5-star quarterback, has committed to Vanderbilt, flipping his commitment from Georgia. And let me take us back in time 2 years to December the 2nd, 2023. Vanderbilt had just lost 10 straight football games, 9 of them by double digits, including 0-8 in the SEC, losing 48-24 in Knoxville against Tennessee. I'm going to go back in time and visit with some of these Vanderbilt fans and say, hey, 2 years from right now, You will not have 10 losses. You'll have 10 wins. Your quarterback will be the Heisman favorite, and you will be signing the number one quarterback in the country the next day. I think they would have thought I was insane. But that is how quickly Clark Lee has turned this thing around. I mean, unbelievable to say that. 2 years ago, they were 2-10. They lost 10 straight games. Now you not only have the Heisman favorite at quarterback on your current team, you have the number one quarterback recruit getting ready to sign with you tomorrow.
And there's something to be said about when Mike Elko and Clark Lee were on that Notre Dame staff in 2017, because both of those guys are flourishing as head coaches. I don't know if they went to dinner and shared some notes, but there's got to be something.
They just had such a great mentor in Brian Kelly.
I know, right? They chose what not to do from Brian Kelly. That's exactly what they did. No, there's just something about that to me. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but they've turned both those programs into powerhouses in the SEC, and especially Clark Lee at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have believed any of this could have happened, and so many people deserve credit for it. Of course, Clark and Candace Story-Lee and Chancellor Diermeyer and Jerry Kill. I mean, Jerry Kill coming over along with Tim Beck, that is really the catalyst of all of it, because Diego doesn't come unless those guys come. Eli Stowers doesn't come unless those guys come. So it is all been just one move after another has been right, and they've somehow gotten themselves to where they are. But Vanderbilt flipping Jared Curtis, the number 3 recruit in the country by both 247 and on 3, and likely going to be their starting quarterback next year. I'm sure that they'll bring in some competition in the portal and make sure that they have some depth there. But I would assume Jared Curtis has at least been told he's going to get every chance to start next year, which sets up a very interesting rivalry in the state of Tennessee, because depending on where you look, guess who the number 2 quarterback in the country is?
Tennessee.
Faison Brandon at Tennessee. So you will have 2 as on 3 has Brandon as the 9th best player in the country and the 4th best quarterback, although 247 has him as the 2nd best player and 2nd best quarterback. So depending on where you're looking, Brandon may be a little better, Curtis may be a little better, but either way, there's a chance that the 2 in-state schools in the SEC, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, are both starting elite 5-star true freshmen next year. And the battles for 3 seasons, as long as neither of them transfer between those 2 guys, could end up being a legendary rivalry between Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
I mean, that's just what makes college football great. When you just start a clean slate. I mean, it's not a clean slate rivalry, but clean slate at quarterback, you're starting something new, and it's a breath of fresh air. It really is. Because I mean, I don't have no dog in the hunt, but the fact of the matter is Vanderbilt's no longer, like you said in a couple segments ago, they're no longer the doormat of the SEC. This is what makes it fun.
I saw a clip from 2 years ago, right about where I just took you back in time, of Paul Feinbaum, and I'm blanking on who he was with. But the question was asked, does Vanderbilt ever win another SEC game? Because they had just gone 0-8. And, of course, with the transfer portal and NIL money, the thought process was from Feinbaum and these guys of like, they're going to keep falling behind, and it's going to become impossible for them to compete. And the opposite has happened. I mean, it is mind-boggling how fast it's happened. To go from people, SEC national media members saying they may never win another game in the SEC, to 2 years later going 6-2 in the SEC, and not only having maybe the best quarterback in the country currently, but the best quarterback recruit in the country.
Yeah, look, all those people out there that love the old system of college football of like, oh, these players, they're getting paid way too much. I get all that, but it's helped out schools like Vanderbilt. I mean, look at the NIL right now. It's flourishing on so many different levels, but that's what opens up this recruiting aspect for Vandy, is that when you have the resources, you can compete with the top dogs.
Yeah.
That's why if you don't like the new era of college football, sure, it has its kickbacks, but you gotta at least endorse it in some aspect.
And you can just see how much alignment can turn things around quickly. Vanderbilt has alignment from the top, from the university through Candace onto the coaches. And that has allowed them to get these elite players. I mean, with women's basketball, Michaela Blakes, she might be the best player in the country. She came to Vanderbilt. They got another 5-star coming in right behind her, the 12th ranked player in the country. So it's all sports. Look at men's basketball. Net rankings come out yesterday. They're 4th in the country.
It's pretty good.
In year 2 under Mark Byington. The alignment from Chancellor Diermeyer in the university all the way down through athletics has allowed Vanderbilt to get the best players in all sports coming. And football was obviously the hardest one to kick the door down in, right? Like the SEC football, you're not the only one with resources. And there's alignment other places too. But Vanderbilt has found a way to kick the door down with this Jared Curtis commitment. And he may not turn out to be the guy that he's hyped up to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen plenty of high school quarterbacks go into college and not end up being the guys that you expect him to be. But just getting a guy of this pedigree means that more people of that pedigree are going to want to come.
Exactly. All those blue chips tend to follow,
Right.
Kind of
right.
like a bunch of wise men in the North Star. They're going to follow.
We are in the Advent.
That's why I had to bring.
Did you just compare Vanderbilt football to the Nativity?
Maybe.
I believe he did. That is where we are at this point on December 2nd, 2025.
'Tis the season.
And honestly, the best recruiters might be your players. And if Jared Curtis is coming, I'm sure he's got some buddies who might want to come too. So Vanderbilt flipping Jared Curtis, the number 1 quarterback in the country by at least one ranking on 3. And he will sign tomorrow morning to make it official before he plays in the state championship game on Thursday for Nashville Christian.
Calculated is that,
right? At first he was going to sign on Friday.
Right.
But I think he wanted to get it out of the way before. So he will sign tomorrow. And then he will go try and win a state championship before putting on the black and gold.
Good for him, though, because you calculate all this, you do it on a Wednesday, and then you play on a Thursday. Say you ball out on Thursday at the state championship game, your NIL value skyrockets once again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a smart PR move on his part. I mean, we'll see what happens, but they take on an 11-1 University School of Jackson, I believe. So,
wow.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's Thursday night.
According to Max Preps.
Tomorrow morning, Jared Curtis will sign and become the number 1 recruit in Vanderbilt history, as the reports right now from lots of different outlets are that he has flipped his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt, and likely is the successor to Diego Pavia next year. Our text line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Keegan says, Vandy and MTSU, rivalry of the next decade. Vandy runs the state. They've been ducking my Tigers all career long. 0-0 against Memphis. Too scared.
Nobody wants
Keegan's Memphis Tigers. Yeah. Maybe the rivalry of the decade is Vanderbilt and Memphis. I was thinking Brandon versus Curtis in Vanderbilt, Tennessee, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see Vanderbilt football and how they grow from here on out. I know there's a lot of disappointment right now of how it's looking like the college football playoff rankings are going to work out and Vandy going to be on the outside looking in. But, if you offer Vanderbilt fans a trade of, hey, you missed the playoffs, but you get the number 1 quarterback in the country moving forward, I think you'd take it.
And a Heisman Trophy winner?
Yeah. Right. It doesn't take anything away from what you've accomplished this year. Vanderbilt's going to get held out, most likely, unless the committee completely flips its thinking. But Vandy's set up for the future now. And it's been rumored for months, but it finally came down this morning that Jared Curtis is flipping his commitment from Georgia to Vanderbilt. 5-star plus quarterback will be wearing the black and gold, and he will sign tomorrow morning. Massive news for Clark Lee and this staff, and they await their fate tonight to see where they end up in the newest college football ranking. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. I did say we talked some Titans. We got a couple segments left. Let's talk some Titans on the other side. We have not touched on the two-tone blue at all on the show today. Been kind of refreshing.
It has been great.
Been refreshing. We can spare 15 minutes. We will do that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Couple more segments on this Tuesday. Chase and Big Joe coming up after us. I'm sure they'll have some thoughts on the Jared Curtis flip, as the 5-star quarterback is going to be a Vanderbilt Commodore, flipping his commitment from Georgia, and he will sign tomorrow. We will talk some Titans here. We have not touched on the Titans at all today. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward coming up on Sunday. And this is one where, and we mentioned this off the top of the show because one of the texters said you're going to get callers like Trey calling in and saying, oh, you should have taken Shedeur number 1 overall if the Titans lose this game on Sunday. But to be honest, I think Myles Garrett is going to ruin any chance of the Titans having success on the offensive side of the ball on Sunday.
Look, if J.C. Latham looks like how he did this past weekend, Titans are in for a rude awakening. Like, we're talking, hopefully Cam Ward does not get hurt. Like, that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett is a absolute animal on the defensive side of the ball. And look, if you're a Titans fan, you definitely want them to win against Cleveland, because that whole video, to me, I think it brings a deeper meaning to all this than anything. When they're, working out together, he says, hey, want to make a rap video or whatever.
Right.
He says, no, I'm all about
a football
ball.
player.
Yeah. If you're a football player, you got to make sure you win those games that defy that. And to me, that would defy that situation for sure.
Yeah. I really just don't think this is going to end well. Garrett, 19 sacks this year. Is it a bold prediction to say he might break the record this weekend?
I thought he broke the record against the Raiders or something.
No, he needs 4 to break the NFL single season.
I'm talking
sack
about for
record.
a team.
Well, he got 5 in one game.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. I think it's very possible with the Titans tackle situation that he could get Cam Ward 4 times on Sunday.
Yeah, it is very possible to do that.
And that's why I'm not going to take too much from this, because I don't expect Shedeur Sanders to light the world on fire either. Like, if he comes in here and throws for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, then great. I will take the beating of calls that we're going to get on Monday saying Shedeur is better than Cam. But I think this is going to be a game that ends like 10-7, and Cam Ward probably gets sacked 6 times, maybe throws a touchdown. Shedeur Sanders maybe throws a touchdown, and one of these teams that's not very good is going to get a win. For the Titans, for their sake, it's probably better that it's the Browns who get the win. But it's I have very low hopes for this being a very watchable game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's definitely look, Browns are the Browns, the Titans are the Titans. It's one of those games where you're just going to be thinking, all right, get to halftime. If it's close, I'll continue to watch it. If it's not close, I'll just turn the TV off and go do my afternoon on a Sunday. Just go outside and enjoy the air, because it's going to be a boring game, 100%.
It's going to be cold up there in Cleveland, I'd assume, right?
Yep. And I said at the beginning of the season, as we're doing our little preseason predictions, like, Cleveland's a tough place to play. I feel like the dog pound, everybody's rallying around this team right now. Sure, they are 3-8 or something like that. Like, I mean, they're 3-9, excuse me,
right,
low on the totem pole. You just got to make sure you win this game.
It's a high of 32 on Sunday. In Cleveland. So it's going to be miserable conditions.
Run the football.
Honestly, I agree, but also, has that worked out lately outside of the first drive on Sunday against Jacksonville with Tony Pollard?
No. I mean,
here's what you do. Khalil Mullings has almost no wear on his tires right now. Just bowling ball up the middle over and over. Make him stop him.
Done. You sold. Give it to me. I'm in for it.
Run the ball 50 times on Sunday.
Yeah. Why not? Look, it can be an obnoxious, ignorant take. I'm all about that, because this team right now, if you throw the football, more than likely is either going to get intercepted or Cam's going to fumble it straight up, or he's going to get sacked, and it's going to be very, very bad for the future of this franchise. Yeah, look, Dan Moore Jr. and you also have J.C. Latham on both sides. I could see Myles Garrett say, you know what, I'm going to go on this side this time, or I'm going to go that side that time. Because, look, Parker made a great point. He could be on, or it might have was you that said it, like, he could set a record.
Well, yeah, he's 3.5 shy of the single season record. We are only on December 2nd. He could break it with 4 weeks to go in the season. That's how dominant he's been this year. And with what we've seen from J.C. Latham and Dan Moore the last couple of weeks, I don't think they're going to slow him down very much.
J.C. Latham has regressed on so many different levels.
It's been bad. And I don't want to overblow it and say he's a bust and you need to find a new right tackle this offseason, because you got to give him time. He's clearly a very talented player, but something has gone wrong, whether it's mental, whether it's the injury nagging, I don't know, but he is not the player that you expected him to be. And I don't think that's going to change in 1 week's time when you get ready to face Myles Garrett. I think it's going to be the exact same thing we saw, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago in Cleveland, where the Titans were rotating the tight ends back and forth just to try and chip Myles Garrett. Like that was the saddest thing I think I've ever seen on a football field. And I've been a Titans fan since I was 6, so there's been lots of them. Was the Titans being so scared of Myles Garrett that as he was going from side to side on the line, they were just motioning the tight end back and forth to make sure he didn't get a one-on-one matchup. I mean, it's going to be bad on Sunday.
Myles Garrett's stat line for that game that you're talking about,
yeah,
he had 5 total tackles, 3.5 sacks.
Yes. And 3.5 sacks, I believe, would tie the single season record, Michael Strahan and TJ Watt.
Yep.
With 4 weeks to go in the season. Jeff on the text line says, it is going to be a bum fight on the side of the highway.
It will be.
That might be the only way to describe what we're going to see on Sunday. And it's funny because I know the NFL, like the main media pundits, the NFL Network, ESPN, is going to be hyping this up as Shedeur versus Cam. Who's going to come out on top? When I think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are both going to have bad games on Sunday where they're not asked to do very much. And it's just going to be, two horrible teams trying to beat each other with rocks and see who can get out of there with a 2-point win.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the headline, friends or foes, like something like that.
They're going to hype it up all week, even though those two guys are not going to, they're probably not going to be asked to do a lot. And even what they are asked to do, I'm not expecting too much.
And even when Shedeur is, let's say, not out there, they run Wildcat a lot with Quinshon Judkins.
They do.
Which to me, the Titans should stop that. I mean, if they don't, then there's definitely something going on.
Well, and I think Cleveland's going to win because, and it has nothing to do with Cam versus Shedeur, because again, I don't think they're going to be the main factors in who wins this game. Cleveland has a better running game. Mm-hmm. They've got talented running backs in Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins. They've got a better offensive line. They've got better coaching. Like Kevin Stefanski, it hasn't gone great the last couple of years, and there's been rumors that he's on the hot seat. But in a tight game, which I expect this to be, a tight, low-scoring game, head coaching decisions are going to make a big difference. They're going to play a big role. And Kevin Stefanski versus Mike McCoy is a massive disadvantage for the Titans.
Yeah, you got conservative McCoy. I mean, I don't know if you heard his press conference on Sunday, but someone asked him and said, so what is it with fourth downs? Like it came to the answer of, if it was 4th and 2, we would go for it. If it was 4th and 3, we were kicking the field goal. That was McCoy's answer. I don't recall the whole entire question, but the fact that you're deciding between a 4th and 2 and a 4th and 3 to go for it, what difference? I mean, I get 1 yard's a difference, but in that scenario, what difference does it make?
That's what I said yesterday of what play you're supposed to call on 4th down and short. It's your best play, right? Like you got something in there of, hey, we need a little bit of yardage. Do you have a play that gets you 2 yards, but not 3? Like, I just don't understand that. You're not sneaking the ball on 4th and 2. So and are you really just going to run it up the middle with Tony Pollard on 4th and 2? I don't think so. It's a pass play.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between 4th and 2 and 4th and 3?
And if anything, run your offense out there and run a hard count. See if they jump. That's what bothers me. Like, just go out there, run a hard count, see what happens. If it doesn't work, audible it out. Maybe call a timeout. Dial, like you're saying, dial up your best 4th and 3 play, then go about it.
Yeah.
I feel bad for McCoy a little bit because you look at, I don't know if it's really him calling the conservativeness of the plays or if it's actually him. I don't know. I can't decipher that.
I mean, he's making the decisions, and right. I love how adamant he was of, I was aggressive with that 4th and 1 call at the end of the first half. It's like, dude, 4th and 1, end of the half, you're down by 12. You should be going for that. That's not aggressive. It's just smart.
Yeah.
Like that is what you should be doing. And I think he's got in the back of his mind, like he wants to prove himself to the fans and the media that I'm not Mike McCoward, as he is being called on the internet. Like he's trying to prove himself, saying, I was extremely aggressive on 4th and 1 late in that first half to go for it there. But if it was 4th and 2, we would have gone for it. 4th and 3 was way too far for us to go for it. He's trying to prove himself. Dude, just go and coach with nothing to lose.
Yes.
You're not getting this job at the end of the year. I don't know if if that hasn't been obvious to him yet. He's not getting this job at the end of the year.
Hate to burst his bubble.
The team is eliminated from the playoffs. Like, just go out there and tell your team to play. Like, nothing to lose. Who cares if we win the football games? Let's go play free and see what happens. And I think that would put the Titans in a better chance to win games than this, oh, well, if we kick a field goal, go up 3-0, maybe there's a chance we win 3-0. It's like, sorry, that's not how this game works. You have to score points to win the game.
And to the point of playing free, you get a better evaluation of players. Like, you get to see what their true colors are. Like, we obviously know what Cam Ward's true colors are because he even commented on the 4th down play. Yeah, we should have gone for it. We have nothing to lose type thing. Look, if you get those type of plays out of like Gunnar Helm or Chigakonkwo, then you get to know what value you have, and especially Chigakonkwo, because that's a deciding factor for him. I mean, if that is the case, but you don't have nothing to prove with Tony Pollard. We know what he is for value.
Yeah.
Got to look at some of those other guys.
Yeah. And sadly, your guy, Xavier Restrepo, we haven't heard officially, right? But he got carted off.
I saw something online, or somebody said it, that it was like an ankle sprain or something.
Okay, so
And
not too bad at least.
Right. And then Restrepo tweeted out, "Thank you, God," type thing. And so hey, fingers crossed that his NFL career is not over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he will be at least given a chance at training camp next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, he might not play again the rest of the season.
Look,
it's tough.
He was making some chunk plays for him.
He was.
He caught one pass from 15 yards in Sunday's game, which is the only catch he had.
Right.
So those chunk yardage plays, it's what makes him who he is.
He did. He was on the receiving end of that crazy 3rd and 10 conversion against the Seahawks, and then was a couple feet away from getting into the end zone later on. But I'd like to see what he can do in training camp next year, but likely we're not going to see him again until next year.
His underdog story will never end. I love it. I love it.
Nick will be catching the strap forever. Wes in Clarksville asks, how do you know McCoy is not getting the job? For all we know, the Titans brass might actually think he's doing a good job. Yeah, if Mike McCoy, I will put this out there now, and I'm 100% serious. If Mike McCoy gets the permanent job as the head coach, I will not be a Titans fan anymore. I will not. Like, that is just lazy. When the guy, and it's not going to happen. So that's why I'm confident in saying this. It is lazy and it is stupid. I don't know any other words for it, except it would be completely senseless to hire Mike McCoy as the full-time head coach when there are way better candidates out there. Way better. No chance. Zero. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We got one more segment on this Tuesday. We'll wrap up the show on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, wrapping up the show. I did want to mention, we were talking Jared Curtis. All the reports came out, Rivals, 247. It was Steve Wiltfong and Hayes Fawcett who reported that Jared Curtis informed the Georgia staff that he was flipping to Vanderbilt. An account on Twitter that at least appears to be Jared Curtis's says, don't know where this all is coming from. Haven't had a chance to talk to either school yet. I'll keep y'all posted. So just something to keep an eye on, I guess. I don't know for sure if that's even his account. It could just be somebody trolling, but I guess we'll see.
I mean, if it's a troll account, they've done a really good
They're
job.
doing a really good job
at hiding it for sure. Because I mean, Nashville Christian is, tweeted and stuff, and it really good job. It's all hidden.
I mean, some very reputable sources have reported that he's flipping to Vanderbilt. So he's signing tomorrow morning. That's when we'll get the official word. But from 247, from Rivals, from all these sources, he's going to be a Vanderbilt Commodore. So excited to see if that comes to fruition tomorrow. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go back to our phone lines. Keegan is on the line. Keegan, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Just want to talk about Jared Curtis real quick. I think that's massive for Vanderbilt. I'm not a Vanderbilt fan whatsoever, but I think that's absolutely massive for them and their future. But I also think it sets a lot of expectations for their future, and that this one player commitment could, change the course of things for the next decade for Vanderbilt. It sets a lot of expectations on Clark Lee. Okay, you're not out here, you're not an underdog, you're not recruiting 3-star guys, to build a team up. This is the real deal. You got the number one quarterback. We recognize your recruiting ability. We want to play you harder now. You can see a lot of how Clark Lee has built his team. They got a fantastic defensive front, but they're kind of shy in the receiver area, the cornerback area. And you can tell, you can't tell right now, but over the course of the future, as this player's career progresses at Vanderbilt, there's chance he could transfer if things don't go right. There's chance that he just doesn't live up to expectations that maybe Diego Pavia has set. There's chances that because of his poor performance, maybe Clark Lee gets on a hot seat in the future. There's a chance that maybe Clark Lee doesn't hold up to the expectations that the quarterback is, bringing in with him. Maybe the quarterback overperforms. But I think there's a lot of things that can happen with just this one big-time commitment that Vanderbilt got. It's opened a lot of eyes. It says Vanderbilt is not to be messed with no more. They're no underdog. They're the real deal. And I think it sets new expectations for their future as a team that wants to go out there and seriously compete and not just be a team to grab 8 wins and call it a good year. They want to actually go out there and accomplish things. And I think it's awesome to see Vanderbilt doing it. And I think it's awesome to watch how this is going to progress in the future, because this is massive for them in the moment.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Keegan. It's a huge moment for Vanderbilt as long as it ends up following through tomorrow and Jared Curtis signs on the dotted line and becomes a Commodore. You add an immediate successor to Diego Pavia to keep the momentum going, and you have the next piece, right, that can keep you from, like a lot of people have expected, going back and reverting back to being a middle of the pack, bottom of the SEC team. Now you got a number one quarterback in the country coming in. And as Keegan said, it's going to be attractive to other people out there as well. Things could go wrong. He could end up in the portal in a couple of years. Who knows? But just getting a prospect of this caliber shows that Vanderbilt has elevated its program to a different level than it was before.
Absolutely. It's changed the trajectory of the Clark Lee era. I mean, that's what you need. And he made a good point about just obviously we've all talked about the attraction of other players, but I'll reiterate this again. It's the veteran players on the roster that you really want to hold on to. And if you can, that I think it only bodes well for a guy like Jared Curtis, because the development process it's a quicker transition. If that is the case, if he's the day one starter.
Right. And that would be the expectation, but who knows? And again, right now there is an account out there refuting the report that he has flipped his commitment to Vanderbilt, but all that will be figured out within the next 24 hours because he is planning on signing his NLI tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So we will see what works out there. Vanderbilt may be getting their best recruit in program history. Before we wrap up, let's go back to the phone lines one more time. Chad is on the line. Chad, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. When I first moved here to town, I guess 25, 30 years ago, I was kind of blown away about how this city was so Knoxville heavy with their football program. Everything was UT, and I think that was kind of, you go back in history, and that goes back into the kind of, probably 50s, 60s, 70s, and that in Nashville and Middle Tennessee, really embracing UT and not really that strong on Vanderbilt. And I think right now what's happening with the melting pot of Nashville is this is an opportunity for Middle Tennessee to embrace their football team. And I think as this city grows as a melting pot, I think you're going to see Vanderbilt grow. And I thought it was great what happened for Middle Tennessee and for Nashville going into Knoxville and really, really just knocking their tail. And I'd like to see Nashville more embrace our football team. And some of these Nashville natives that have, were always UT and wear their orange and all that, man, that's East Tennessee. Let's embrace what we have and let's have our loyalty to us and not so much to East Tennessee. So I'm loving what Vanderbilt's doing. They get this quarterback. Things are shifting, and I love it. Your thoughts?
Thanks for the call, Chad. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think I've seen people move here, including some of my friends, and they have no ties to Tennessee, but they start rooting for Tennessee, and they wear their orange on Saturdays. I think that needs to flip. You move to Nashville, you become a Vanderbilt fan.
Right.
And this is the start of that with what they've done on the field this year and bringing in a player like Curtis.
Yeah, it's almost like you wear Tennessee gear by default, just because people that are associated with it or that's their first love.
Yeah.
You're right. Nashville it's gold and black and gold.
Yep.
This is exactly where it should be. So as for Tennessee fans, I'm sure they're shaking in their boots.
Going to be fun if we've got 2 5-star quarterbacks on either side of the state getting ready to face off for the next 4 years. Dr. Crane, as always, appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me as always.
It's been a fun show. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis is with us for the full show. We will react to the possible Jared Curtis news. We'll talk Diego Pavia's Heisman case, get back into some Titans and much more. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.